You are not alone. We're here to support our community. Get help to overcome life's barriers by setting up a meeting to talk with Great Awakening's interdisciplinary team. Great Awakening is committed to healing Israel's brokenness. The GA interdisciplinary team comprises of Torah-observant and Ruach-filled professionals from various disciplines who work in collaboration to address Great Awakening's mishpacha with multiple physical, spiritual, emotional, financial, marital, family, social, and psychological needs. Our interdisciplinary team is not just a group of awakened experts implementing separate care and treatments of a person. They complement one another's expertise and actively coordinate to work toward shared treatment goals. Our team of interdisciplinary professionals are nurses, physical therapists, physicians, therapists, social workers, moray/spiritual practitioners, family counselors, and other specialists, all working together for the shared goal of the mishpacha's healing, deliverance, treatment, and recovery. Our interdisciplinary team focuses on mental health, health and fitness, Torah-based spiritual care, financial stewardship, which I command thee this day, shall be in thine heart, and thou shalt teach them diligently unto thy children, and shalt talk of them when thou sittest in thine house, and when thou
All right. Shalom, shalom. Welcome, everybody, to this Bible class. We certainly are glad that you're able to join us, those who are here in the house, those who are joining in the digital house, as we come closer and closer to very important time for Yasharal or Israel. Very, very important time. Whether it's been a part of our lifestyle culture or not, do we shrink the Most High to our culture and our lifestyle, or do we try to live up to His? And so that's got to be something that we'll have to quiz ourselves, and we'll have to answer that ourselves, because there's a day coming where we're all going to stand before the judgment seat of the Mashiach, and He knows our heart. He does. We used to sing that song years ago. Yahusha understands. Jesus understands. Yeah, He understands. All His ways are best. And see, that's the thing. He does understand. He knows the heart, and He knows the intent and the purpose of the heart. So you might say, "Oh, it's always been in my heart," but He knows you're lying. He knows if you're telling the truth or not. And then you'll have those that, when they stand before Him, they'll say, "Well, we weren't taught that. We didn't know that." And He knows their heart, whether they would accept it if they were taught, or if they would reject it. Everybody is going to stand before Him. Nobody's going to be able to pull any wool over his eyes and fool Him in any way, shape, or form, because he knows the intent of the heart, the very desires of the heart, and there's nothing that can be hid from Him. This is a very important time. We're coming down. This is the last Bible class we have before we actually celebrate and memorialize the Passover. In Exodus chapter 12 and verse 14, Exodus 12 and 14, in fact, I think I want to go up, Brother Nathan, go up a few verses, and I want to go to verse 11. In verse 11, in the last phrase in verse 11, he plainly tells us, it says, "And thus shall ye eat it with your loins girded, your shoes on your feet, and your staff in your hand, and ye shall eat it in haste. It is Yahuwah's Passover. It does not belong to you. It's not yours. It don't belong to the church, C-H-U-R-C-H. It don't belong to this country, this culture. It don't belong to no other Elohim or God. People say God, it's Elohim. It doesn't belong to another nation. It doesn't belong to the school of Rome. The Passover does not belong to the Roman Catholic Church. It does not belong to any denomination, any pastor, teacher, preacher, brother, sister, any titles you want to put on them, any fancy initials for organizations. What do they call that when you get an acronym? Fancy acronyms. It don't belong to, Passover belongs to the Most High Yah. It's his. It's not ours. It's not ours. And I know a lot of us have not been taught in the school of the Most High Yah. We have not been taught in the school of his only begotten Son, Yahusha, because if we had been taught in his school of Yahusha, is something that we would continue have done, and it's something that parents would pass down to their children so that it wouldn't be so difficult after several generations. Like right now, you got adults and they say, wait a minute, we ain't never done, what are you talking about? You coming out of the sky with something. You got something new. No. What we have embarked upon and where we're at today is something that has been memorialized 3,500 years ago. And you have had pockets of people who have been keeping the Passover since then. There's always been a mighty, how do you know there's always, because he says, I've never left myself without a witness. Never have. I've always had somebody keeping Shabbat. I've always had somebody keeping Passover. I've always had somebody keeping first fruits. I've always had somebody checking their house, getting rid of all the leaven, getting rid of all the sin out of the camp, out of their house, out of their mind, out of their heart. I've always had somebody that was doing that. Whether it's not as popular as you might think in the circles that you live in, I'm not looking to please men. I think we read that in Acts, the 5th chapter, as we were reading through that. I think we're getting ready to start chapter 6. But in Acts, the 5th chapter, Kepha says, should we obey Elohim or man? It's that simple. Do you want to obey the Most High Yah or do you want to obey man? And a lot of times men have not led us in this path. And so most of us, when we stand before his seat of judgment, will say, I wasn't taught this. My pastor, teacher, feeder, they said it was just, a festival that was wrapped up in the Mashiach, and once he left, it was all over. It was over with. But that student who says that or makes that claim before the judgment seat of Christ, he's going to take you to the book of Acts and show you in the book of Acts where they kept it after his resurrection. He'll also take you to 1 Corinthians when Shaul was writing towards the end of his life. In the 1st century, he'll take you there where Shaul says, therefore keep the feast. So when we want to push it off on others, we want to push it off on family, we want to push it off, well, my spouse didn't teach, my pastor didn't teach me. That irresponsibility, we get that spirit from Adam and Eve. When he told Eve, or he told Adam, what have you done? Have you eaten of the tree of knowledge of good and evil? That woman you gave to me, she's the reason why. So he asked the woman, the serpent beguiled me. So she tried to push it off on the serpent. that old devil. And the devil didn't have nobody else to push it off on. He had to stand there and take his whooping and take his curse. And so did Eve, and then so did Adam. So in that day of accountability, you're not going to be able to pass it off on anybody else. So he says here, it is Yah's Passover. Now, Brother Nathan, if you go down to verse number 14, where I wanted to start, this belongs to Yah. It's not ours. It belongs to Yah. And verse 14 says, and this day shall be unto you for a memorial, and ye shall keep it a feast to Yahuwah throughout your generations. Ye shall keep it a feast by an ordinance forever. Number one, it's Yah's Passover. It's not yours. It don't belong to the church. This Passover, what we're getting ready to do, doesn't belong to this church. That's not even elementary thinking. That's the type of thinking where you ain't got no knowledge. If you think it belongs to, well, the church has never done it, so I guess it don't belong to that. Contrary to how we understand that we're of such an advanced culture, we're not. We're not. You're not of an advanced culture when you got everybody doing their own thing. You're not of an advanced culture or body of the Mashiach when you're divided. Shaul said in 1 Corinthians, the first chapter, he said there should be no divisions among you. And he breaks it down. He says, were any of you baptized in Kepha's name? What about Apollos? What about my name? You know, so there was supposed to be no division amongst the body. And that's what you see so much today, especially in this country that wants to brag about being the best country in the world. You know, we're the greatest country on earth. Well, there's going to be a price to pay for that. But I beg to differ. It's a very low culture of a country, because you got a little bit of everything and everybody's going in their own different direction. It is such a base and sordid culture anymore that they're teaching our children about sex changes in kindergarten, first, second, and third grade. That's a base culture. That's a morbid culture. That's not no high culture. That ain't no high culture at all. We're a baser sort. We're a morbid nation, and this nation is a vile nation, and it's going to be judged. Somebody that is of a higher culture is when you understand the covenant that he made with Israel and with Judah, when he says, I'm going to write my laws where? On your mind, and I'm going to write it in your heart, and then you won't need a teacher. Because everybody that he writes it on their mind and in their heart, we just do. We just do it. We won't need a teacher. You won't need somebody explaining to you what Passover is. This is Yah's Passover. This is memorialized. This is something that's supposed to be done. This is great and monumental unto Yah. And you won't need nobody to teach you that, because at the beginning of the year, you'll know, okay, 14 days the Passover is killed, 15th day to the 21st day is unleavened bread. We just do it. We just do it. Now you got to explain it. You got to debate it. You got houses that are split. You got people in a house where, yeah, I think we should. Oh, I don't think we should. Oh, yeah, I think this. No, we ain't got to do it. We ain't never did that before. And so you got all of this conflict, but the higher culture, a higher lifestyle and a higher culture is when it's in your mind and on your heart, and everybody moves in that one direction. He said in the 11th chapter of Genesis, he said, let me go down here and see what these people are doing. Because the people are what? One. And when the people are one, there's nothing they won't be able to do. They'll be, whatever they want to do, they're going to do it because the people are one. The power in solidarity, the power in being one is beyond this world. That's the high culture, which we're not there yet, because we still have to explain to people why. We still have to explain to people why. Why should we do this now? Notice what he says. He says it's a memorial. A memorial is something that you remember. It's a memorial, something I remember. Now I find this so fascinating, and I wish I had learned this much, much sooner in my life, but we have a day on the calendar for this country called Memorial Day. And every year, you can believe, people keep Memorial Day. Whether or not you have somebody in your family that served in the military ranks, lost their life, it don't matter. You could come from a house where nobody served in the armed forces. But when it's Memorial Day, you're so grateful, you're looking for veterans, you're going way out of your way, and that memorial didn't come around until the last 100 or some years. We're talking about something that's supposed to be memorialized from 3,500 years ago. 3,500 years ago. So you tell me which is better, Memorial Day on the United States calendar, or what's supposed to be memorialized the 14th day of the month of Abib on the Hebrew calendar unto the Most High Yah. You have to ask yourself that. But he says that this shall be a feast unto you by an ordinance forever. And I want to know, and maybe because we're going to kind of close up, because by now we should have prepared ourselves. We should have gone through the steps. We should have fasted the last couple of Wednesdays, fasting from 6 a to 6 p. Maybe I should have said from sunrise to sunset. Because when I said we're going to fast the day, some people think it's 24 hours. Because, see, we have the Roman mindset. The Roman mindset, the day starts at 12 midnight, and when you say a day, you're thinking 24 hours. Where on the Hebrew calendar, on the Hebrew understanding of Scripture here, the evening starts the day, but you have the night that precedes the day, just like you had in creation. Go back to Genesis. The evening and the morning was the first day. The evening and the morning was the second day. So according to the Hebrews, that's how it was done. Now you have some who don't want to follow the Hebrew calendar. They don't want to follow the Hebrew understanding of this book. But Brother Nathan, if you would give me Exodus chapter 9, and let's look at verse number 1. For those who don't want to follow on the Hebrew, then Yahuwah said unto Moshe, go in unto Pharaoh and tell him, thus saith Yahuwah Elohim of who? Oh, so he's the Elohim of the Hebrews. He didn't say I'm the Elohim of Pharaoh or the Egyptians. I'm not the Elohim of the Ethiopians. I'm not the Elohim of the Canaanites, of the Hittites, the Amorites, the Jebusites, all them ites. He said, I'm not their Elohim. I'm the Elohim of the Hebrews. And so if he's the Elohim of the Hebrews, now let me ask you, who has all power? Does the God of the Canaanites have all power, or does the Most High Yah have all power? Well, that's easy. Most High Yah has all power. So all them Canaanite gods, Molech, Baal, Dagon, and all them, they have no power. To him, they have no power. So should I be subject to the Canaanites and to their God when the Most High Yah says, I'm the God of the Hebrews? We don't even know what we have. We don't know what we have. My question is, when did all of this change? When did all of this change? Y'all help me, and if I offend somebody, just forgive me. Just forgive me if I offend somebody, but Most people in the CHURCH don't believe this book. They don't believe this book. They don't believe this book. Most people in the CHURCH thinks all of this is over with. So when you're to memorialize this for all your generations, you're supposed to do it forever. People in the CHURCH says, well, forever ended. Well, when did forever end? Because people in the CHURCH will take me here. Hebrews 13 and verse 8. Because remember now, he's the Elohim of the Hebrews. He says, I'm Yah Elohim of the Hebrews. Let's look at what Hebrews 13 and 8 says. Yahushua Mashiach, the same yesterday and today and what? So when did he change? When did he change New Testament, CHURCH? When did he change? If you're going to stand on this verse, you must tell me when he changed. You got to show me. Somebody's lying. Somebody is lying. The Most High Yah spoke from the Shamayim, from heaven, and said, this day is to be memorialized. You're supposed to keep it as a feast forever. That's what the Most High Yah said. We seen that, right? And he gave it to them Hebrews. You don't know, but you got Hebrew sacred writings and Hebrew prophecy every time you put your hand on that book. Every time you open up that book, you're dealing with a Hebrew Elohim, Hebrew sacred scriptures, and Hebrew secrets, Hebrew idioms. That's what you're dealing with. So you got to explain to me, when did he change? When did he change? When you change? Because you can go to Acts, the 12th chapter. Acts, the 12th chapter, verse number 1. Acts 12, verse 1. Now, about that time, Herod the king stretched forth his hands to vex certain of the CHURCH, and he killed James, the brother. He killed Jacob, the brother of Yahuchanan, with the sword. And because he saw it pleased the Yahudim, he proceeded further to take Kepha also. Then were the days of unleavened bread, years after the resurrection. Years. By the time you get to the 12th chapter, years after the resurrection. The 10th chapter, when Kepha had that vision, history says that was at least 6 years after the resurrection. At least 6. So by the time we get here, we're talking a few years. This could be anywhere from 6 to 10 years after the resurrection. You mean they were still keeping the Feast of Unleavened Bread after the resurrection? Because his ordinance was, you're supposed to memorialize it and do it forever, because it don't belong unto you. It belongs unto him. So somebody's lying. Somebody's lying. And I don't know why, and I should, because I was raised in a church, but I'm so thankful that my understanding is enlightened now. I'm thankful for this. Yahuchanan 16:13. This is what I'm thankful for. Yahuchanan 16:13. Howbeit, when he, the Spirit of truth, is come, he will guide you into all truth. I'm so glad for that the Ruach will guide you into all truth. And so that's what he's doing with us today, is he's guiding us into all truth. And this is a time where we're to memorialize Yah's Passover. Not mine, not no bishop, not no elder, district elder, not no pastor, not no evangelist. It don't belong to you. It belongs to the Most High Yah. And this is the time that we memorialize it. And some people will memorialize it in their home. Some people are going to gather with those who are of the faith that understands and knows that this is something to be memorialized. You'll have those who will be gathering with other Israelites. They'll be gathering with Hebrews. You have some that'll be in their home. You have to know and be honest with yourself. What we're about to memorialize and do, this nation, the United States of America, has no part of it. You have to understand that. They have no part of this. They're not of the Hebrew faith. They're not. They call themselves a Christian. I wouldn't even call it a Christian nation. This place is so backwards. If you think this nation, it sickens me. It's just me. It's just me. But it sickens me when people put so much stock in this nation over Hebrew sacred scriptures. And you're going to have to pay for that. Or I should say, you got to give an account for that. You're going to have to give an account for how you pushed up a culture, a base. You know what I mean by base? I mean something just a morbid, vile. You're putting a morbid, vile, base culture above this book. And you got to give it, you're going to have to answer for that. Acts chapter 17, verse 31. You got to answer for that. You have to give an account, because he hath appointed a day in the which he will do what? Judge the world in righteousness by that man whom he hath ordained, whereof he hath given assurance unto all, in that he hath raised him from the dead. I think I know who he's talking about. I think I know he's talking about my Savior now, my Messiah, my King, my Redeemer. That's who he's talking about, because he's the only one that got up out of the grave and never went back. Now, you had some people that was raised from the dead at the time of his crucifixion and resurrection. They were raised from the dead, but they went back. They went back to the grave. Lazarus was raised from the dead in his ministry, but he went back to the grave. You had people who were resurrected, but they had to go back to the grave. He's the only one that got up out of the grave, never went back. Never went back. So I think that's who we have to give an account to. We have to stand before him. We have to talk to him, and everybody's going to have to talk to him. And I would, you know what? If I'm the only one doing this, I want to do it and say, when I stand before him, I did my best to keep everything that you have written in this book. Have I made some mistakes on the way? Yeah, I made some mistakes. But that's why he gives us this time to correct ourselves. He's given us time to correct ourselves. For 3,500 years, he's given his people time to correct themselves. Because at this time of the year, we should be doing an examination of ourselves. So let's go to 1 Corinthians chapter 11. 1 Corinthians chapter 11. And let's start with verse 17. Now in this that I declare unto you, I praise you not, that ye come together not for the better, but for the worse. For first of all, when you come together in the church, I hear that there be divisions among you, and I partly believe it. Because see, now he already had told them there's not supposed to be any divisions. He said that in the first chapter. No divisions among you. So every time I see all these different denominations, I know it's not right. It can't be. Every time you see schisms, It ain't right. Because he said, ain't supposed to be no schisms among you. And you got people that will henpick and pick out very little things to cause division. Even in the home. I mean, it's not a weighty thing. And sometimes you can't look past that. I mean, you can't just deal with that and okay, let's go on. Let's move on. You can't, okay, I just agree to disagree, or we must agree to disagree, and let's just stay in unity. You got people can't, some of the littlest things, but that's what he said, it'd be the little foxes that spoil the vine. It's them little things that trips you up, not the big major things. You know, we look at, and because we're going to talk about the 10 Commandments, because after Pesach, and unleavened bread, we have to find where it was changed. We have to find it. Because nobody in the CHURCH can stand flat-footed and quote Hebrews 13 and 8 to me and then say, we don't do that no more, that was changed. That ain't nothing but a lie. That's nothing but a lie. Well, he does say, let Yah be true and every man what? And that's what they are. Every man's a liar. All y'all folks are lying. Hey, you're going to pay. You're going to pay. There's so many scriptures that we can build on this. So many scriptures. We have scripture on top of scripture on top of scripture on Passover and unleavened bread, and no scriptures. Well, somebody, I'm going to see if you guys catch this. And no scriptures on Good Friday and Easter Sunday. Now, somebody catch me. Somebody catch me now. There you go. There you go. Because you can't build no doctrine on Good Friday and Easter Sunday. Well, we're going to change the name from Easter Sunday to Resurrection Sunday. You can't build no doctrine on Good Friday and Resurrection Sunday. You can't do it. Because on this year, the Pesach falls on the 14th day of Abib, which is the 15th day of April, on this year. Do you know what Pesach falls on next year? I was looking at next year's calendar. You know what Pesach falls on? No, it falls on Wednesday next year. 2023, Pesach falls on Wednesday, the same day, midweek, when he was actually the Passover for us next year. And I think, this is just me, but I think we got about one more year before everything falls off the rails, before all the wheels fall off. But we're moving toward that because this whole war with Ukraine, this stuff was planned. If anybody wants to, I've got a article, and I'll send it to you, about what they were planning for in Ukraine back in 2017. 2017. There's some articles and stuff about what they wanted to do in Ukraine in 2017. And so now we see it in 2022. But what they're doing over there in Ukraine, that is planned. They have a plan. Because they know that there's going to be a great reset. And certain people know they've got to get out of that land. So they're just kind of paving a way for them. Because after all this demolition and everything that you see on TV, after all that demolition and everything, they're going to go on there and they're going to start to rebuild. And you'll be surprised what they're going to call it. You're going to be surprised what they're going to call it. And they all in it because they know. I'll just say this, certain people know they got to pack up and leave. So they got a place that they want to go. Because they know if they don't pack up and leave, they're going to be slaughtered. So they got to pack up and leave. So you got to give us a place to go now. Notice the people who are involved. Zelensky, notice who's involved now. There's secret meetings that's going on in Jerusalem. Tel Aviv is almost like Kyiv. Just some hints. Just some hints there. You'd be surprised if I show you this article. You're going to be surprised. Yes. Yeah. 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 Right. And usually when there's something big going on, it's like even this past Olympics, or it's always something going on, and they're preparing behind the scenes. They're preparing behind the scenes, and they do a lot of things secretly, and so some people are caught by surprise, but then they're able to disguise a lot of stuff. They disguise a lot of stuff. So they are preparing for this takeover of the world. They know there's going to be a reset. And what's going on there right now is not Gog, Magog in the judgment of Ezekiel or Yekazakal 38. That's not what's going on, not now. That's in the future. That's going to happen, but that's not going to happen until Israel gets back over in their land that was promised to them from Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. Yes. Yeah, and that happened in 70 AD. That happened in 70 AD. Now you have some people that are called preterists. Remember that word, preterists. Preterist means that everything that Yahusha spoke about in Matthew 24 has already happened. Those are preterists. They believe all that happened in 70 AD. But there's one thing about Hebrew scriptures, it's cyclical. It's cyclical. So it's not linear like Greek. It's cyclical. So there's things that was prophesied that happened, but then it'll happen again. Because when you read Yekazakal 38 and get understanding of that, because Israel, Jacob, the descendants of Yasharal, they're actually going to be in the land, but then it's going to be surrounded again by Gog and Magog. They're going to have another fight, and then that's when you have Armageddon. But that's way off in the future. Armageddon's way off in the future. We're not even there yet, because Armageddon doesn't happen until after the 1,000 years of peace. There's going to be 1,000 years of peace where Yahushua is going to be reigning here on earth. I want everybody to know he's going to be reigning here on earth. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done in earth as it is in heaven. God tell you, CHURCH people don't believe the Bible. They don't believe the Bible. Because they'll convince you you're going to be in the Shamaim, which you can't go, and everything else is going to be going on down here on the earth. Because if you knew what the Shamaim was made of, you know you can't get up there. Not like that. You can't get up there. Can't get up there. What comes out of the Shamaim? Yeah. That New Jerusalem, the city is called Shamaim. That's what he calls it in Revelation. It's the city of heaven, or the city of Shamaim. Abraham was looking for that city. It says he looked and he searched for a city whose builder and maker was the Most High Yah, and he couldn't find it, not in his day. What Abraham was looking for is going to come down out of the Shamaim onto this earth. But when you look at what the city is made of, because in Isaiah it says the Shamaim has stories. And if you look at what the city is made of, that's what you have up in the Shamaim. It ain't just oxygen or no oxygen. When you see that city come down out of the Shamaim in those different layers, because it talks about the 12 foundations and what the 12 foundations are made of. Just something to think about. Okay. For there must be also heresies among you, that they which are approved may be made manifest among you. When you come together, therefore, into one place, is not to eat the Lord's Supper. And he's kind of like asking a question. When you come together in one place, is it not to eat the Lord's Supper? So what was his supper? Well, his supper was the Passover meal. Where's that at? In some of you Bible scholars can help me out, but because they wanted to go and prepare the Passover. Is it 12 of? I'm looking for when they were asking him the question, where should they prepare? Is that Mark 15? I was looking in Yahoo Canaan. Okay, Mark 15. No. Yeah, I see Mark 14. Matthew, was it 26? And yeah, that's the one I was looking for. Matthew 26:17. And we're going to come back to 1 Corinthians 11 here, because we got to talk about now the first day of Feast of Unleavened Bread, or the first of the unleavened bread. Do you know that when the new year came, they began to prepare for unleavened bread? The Feast of Unleavened Bread consisted of the Passover, unleavened bread, Feast of Unleavened Bread, and Feast of First Fruits. All three of those feasts was considered unleavened bread. Because unleavened bread, you had the Passover, which was on the 14th day, right? Passover on the 14th day. Then from the 15th day to the 21st day was unleavened bread. But the third day of unleavened bread was first fruits. That's when they gathered in the first fruits on the third day of unleavened bread. That's why when Mary went to the tomb, it was a third day of unleavened bread. And who did she see when she went to the tomb? Who did she see? And she didn't recognize, but what did she thought he was? The gardener, because it was a time for first fruits, the gathering of first fruits. So he was gathering up the first fruits to take for their dinner, their feast that night. And she thought he was a gardener. What's he doing out there in the garden? Getting the first fruits because Feast of First Fruits. So you have first fruits, which was in unleavened bread. But he says here, where wilt thou that we prepare for thee to eat the Passover? To eat the Passover. Now, it was during the time of unleavened bread. That's what it says, right? It was during the time of unleavened bread. But we're getting ready to eat the Passover. So back to 1 Corinthians 11, I think it's verse 17. 1 Corinthians 11, 17. Is that where we were? No, here, verse 20. When you come together, therefore, into one place, is it not to eat the Lord's Passover or Adonai's Passover? Because he ate the Passover meal, and after the meal, that night, he became the Passover and actually was slain the next day. So, for in eating, everyone taketh before his own supper, and one is hungry and another is drunken. So what they were doing Now, this was for the Passover now. What they were doing was everybody was bringing food and they was having a big old feast. And you had some folks that just wasn't blessed. They weren't Baruch, and so they didn't have a lot to bring. Well, the ones who had plenty wasn't sharing. That's how we are, ain't it? Because you know how we do it. What did you bring? I brought a beef dog. Well, that's all you gonna eat. Y'all know how we do. Y'all know how we do. You know, I just brought some bread. Did you buy anything to put in the bread? No, all I could afford was a loaf of bread. Well, that's all you gonna eat. Isn't that how we do it? We ain't supposed to do it like that now. But that's how some folks are. This is Dutch treat. That's what they was doing here. You know what Dutch treat is? Everybody bring their own meal, and that's what you eat. So if you don't bring nothing, you don't eat nothing. So Shaul says, I got to deal with this. For everyone taketh before his own. So first they bringing beef and chicken, collard greens, and corn on the cob, and sweet potatoes, and all of that. He said, you guys bringing your own supper. He says, whose supper is it? What's Yahushua's supper? So we got to find out what Yahushua's supper was. Because he's going to deal with it later on how you should eat your meal before you come so that when you come, you ain't hungry. Man, I ain't ate all day. Is it 6 o'clock? I'm ready to get down. You know, when we first started doing it, that's what we did. We bought all kind of food. Because we had to learn this. We did, you know, we was early in the teaching and everything because we never did it before. So we was bringing all kind of food. We had so much food out there. It was like a smorgasbord. I think we had chicken and liver and I don't know if we had liver, but we had some. Did we have liver? Gizzards? I mean, we had all kind of food. And that's what we was doing here. Everyone before his own supper, and one is hungry and another is drunken. Because some people, when they said feast, they took it literally. Man, I'm going to eat and drink. So what does he say? What? That's why I know this is, y'all forgive me. That's why I know it's a black book. What? Say what? You know how we do that, right? Say what? What? Okay. Just stay with me in my folly. Have you not houses to eat and drink in? Because they was eating and drinking in their house. But drunken is a sin, but they would still eat and drink in their house. Or despise ye the church of Elohim and shame them that have not. So you had those who were coming and they was getting down. They was really feasting. And you had those who were poor, because you're always going to have those who are poor among you that couldn't bring anything. And they sat there and had to watch you eat. And what does he say? He says, you despise the church of Elohim and shame them that have not. What shall I say to you? Shall I praise you in this? I praise you not. So listen, for I have received of the Adonai that which also I deliver unto you, that the Adonai Yahushua, the same night in which he was betrayed, he took bread. So when he had his Passover meal, the Passover meal consisted of lamb and bitter herbs. Lamb and bitter herbs. And that's what he had as his meal. And it was his last meal. And they call it, you know, you have people now who are capital punishment, death row, and they call it, you know, what's your last request, or Your final meal, huh? Your last, yeah, that's about what it is. Because they always give them a meal. They say, what do you want to eat? What do you want to eat? Where'd they get that from? They get it from our book. There's so many things they get from our book that you got folks ashamed of the Hebrew scriptures. And they get it from our book. Your last will and testament. Where'd they get that from? From the book. You're going to eat your last meal. Okay, let's raise it up. Brother Nathan, 23 here. So that same night, which he was betrayed, he took bread. Now the taking of the bread was after he had his meal. So he had his Passover meal, and then after he had his meal, and you correct me if I'm wrong, but then he took a towel and he girded himself and he washed all their feet. He washed all the feet. He got to Kepha, and Kepha said, you ain't washing my feet. That's beneath you. You ain't washing my feet. So Yahusha says, well, if I don't wash you, you ain't got no part with me. I mean, he was just real cool about it. Okay, Kepha. But if I don't wash you, you ain't got no part with me. So Kepha said, well, if that's the case, wash everything, my head, my hands, my feet. Don't just do my feet. Wash all of me. Because if Kepha was willing to do, even though he still betrayed him, because he denied him 3 times. But I shouldn't say betrayed him, but he denied him 3 times. But Kepha knew he was going to come back in his kingdom. He knew he was going to come back in his kingdom. So when he says, you ain't going to have no part with me, no, I want all of it now. Not just my feet, but my whole body. Just wash me till I'm clean. Then after he had washed their feet, then he took the bread. He took the bread. And when we have our Passover here, we're going to wash feet first. We're going to wash feet first. And our Pesach is going to start at 6 p.m. Now, for some of y'all who think 6 p.m. is 6:30, then our Pesach starts at 5:30. 5:30, because that means you'll get here by 6. But they started, and we're going to start at 6 o'clock with the meal. And you'll have your lamb. Now, another thing about lamb that I wanted to say was there was not supposed to be any leftovers. Whatever you put on your plate, whatever size of lamb, you just eat that lamb and the bitter herbs. And there's not supposed to be any leftovers. Well, ain't no lamb going to fill me up. It's not supposed to. It's not supposed to fill you up. He says you got homes to eat and drink. You eat at home and then you come. I don't like lamb. I never had lamb before. This is Yah's Passover. It don't belong to us. I'm a vegetarian. I don't even eat no red meat. It's Yah's Passover. Don't belong to it. And you don't have to have a big cut. All you got to have is just a piece of lamb. And we're not supposed to have any leftovers. So when you put that lamb on your plate, you eat all that lamb. You eat all that lamb and you eat them bitter herbs. And then after he did that, then he took the unleavened bread, the matzah. He took the unleavened bread. And when he had given thanks, he brake and he said, but notice now, he blessed the bread first. He blessed it first and then he broke it. So if it was unleavened bread and it represented his body that was sinless. And if we do it right the way we're supposed to, and we get all the sin out, that means our body would be unleavened. It's unleavened. And that's where we want to be. We don't want to, as we read on here, you don't want to be given all this time and then take of his body and you have not been blessed or broken. Because it is painful. I've had some people call me and talk, it's painful. You have to search yourself. You got to search yourself and see, you've been given plenty of time. Last week we talked about house cleaning, getting all this stuff out. All this stuff out. Folks is playing with this. Everybody that has come through here should be at Pesach. Everybody. Well, I don't know. I don't even believe in that no more. That's what got, you know how many folks died in the wilderness? He got rid of a lot of Israelites. He killed a lot of Israelites. Because you got some folks that don't think they're going to die. Oh, you're going to die, Slim. You're going to die. You got sin, and he's giving you opportunity to get that sin out, and you still playing around with it? Because we got young folks, they just playing around. You're playing around with your soul. You're playing with your soul. You're going to die one day. And it's a thin line between life and death. Very thin line. Tomorrow ain't promised to none of us here. It ain't promised. You got folks that'll go off in their sleep. Won't even be here tomorrow. You're going to die one day. And these young folks, they just fooling around. Go on, fool around now. You ain't going to get it here. Ain't nobody here talking about fooling around. We've been talking about getting your house in order, checking the crevices of your mind, checking the crevices of your heart, searching yourself, examining yourself. I got to examine myself, see, make sure I believe this. I have to examine myself to make sure I believe this. Folks fooling around, you can fool around all you want, as long as you know you got to stand before him and he's going to ask you. And you won't confess now, I guarantee you're going to confess then. You're going to give it all up. Folks are going to be snotty-nosed, crying and everything, trying to give it all up. But when he says, depart from me, I never knew you, ye that work iniquity. And when he pronounces that judgment on you, it's over. There's no repentance. We got repentance now. And we showed you, we don't have to go there, but in Numbers 5 and 7, repentance and forsaking was under the law. Well, New Testament, now we're a New Testament church, so we commit sin, we can repent, we'll confess and repent. That's Torah, that's under the law. Everything that Paul taught, he got from the law. Everything he taught. Because by the law is the knowledge of sin. The law is the knowledge of sin. And that's why Paul studied the law and then he taught. All that wickedness you guys doing. And you can see it in Romans chapter 1, down at the end of the chapter. You can see it in 1 Corinthians chapter 6, verse 9 on down. You can see it in Galatians chapter 5, verse 19, 20, 20. All of that you should be doing some house cleaning on. Because when you get down to the end of Romans chapter 1, that last verse says, knowing the judgment of Yah, that they who do such things are what? Worthy of death. Not only do you do the same, but you have pleasure in them that do it. Oh, I like to watch. You got pleasure with them that do it. You's just as guilty as they are. Folks, y'all fooling around now. Go ahead and fool around, but you can't say you ain't heard it. Everybody listening in. He said, take, eat. This is my body, which is broken for you. This do in remembrance of me. So every time, at the beginning of the year, when we have our new year, we should automatically be thinking about, and I think the book of Exodus is a good book to read, and I've read it at the beginning of the year, just read Genesis and Exodus at the beginning of our year, not the beginning of the Greco-Roman calendar, but the beginning of our calendar, and it's just a good read because it's Yah's Passover, and he's explaining it to you. Do you know Yah's Passover and the coming out of Egypt was a part of Stephen's last message? Before he died, they stoned him. He talked about Israel coming out of Egypt. And the greatest fault with those people who came out of Egypt, where was their heart? Their heart was still in Egypt. Physically, they came out, but their heart was still in Egypt. And you got that today, folks. I'm out of the world. I'm saved now. But your heart is still back there in the world. Your heart is with Lil Wayne. Your heart is with Rihanna. That's where your heart is. Will Smith, Chris Rock, Denzel Washington. Can't get them off your mind. That's where your heart's back there. They always, like sister, there's such a distraction. They gave you that distraction at the beginning of our year when we should be thinking about this. You think about all that other junk. They know what they're doing. They know who you are. You don't know who you are. That's the tragedy. But they do, and so they trip you up with all this stuff. He says, my body is broken. I want you to think about what I had to go through. And leading up to this, because it says in 1 Corinthians chapter 5, verse 7 and 8, he says the Mashiach is our Passover. He's the one that's our Passover. So this is what we need to get over into the promised land. This is what we need. We need his blood. We need his body. That's what we need to get over. Because he says, he that overcometh. We're going to come back to verse 24 here, but Brother Nathan, Revelation 21 and 7. We need a Passover. We need a Passover. He that overcometh. Now, I can't overcome without Yahushua Mashiach. I can't, because he's my Passover. He's the one that's going to get us from death unto life. He's the one that's going to pass us over from sin to sinless. He's the one that we have to go through. He's our Passover. Not I'm going to keep the law. That ain't your Passover. When you look at Exodus 12, the law was not the Passover. The Passover was the blood of that lamb. That was the Passover. How do you know it was the blood? Because they had to put it on the doorpost and the lintel of the door. And he says, when I see the blood, I'm going to pass over. When I see that blood. So how do I can't overcome without the Passover. I can't. So he that overcometh shall inherit. That's my inheritance. The fact that I overcame sin. Because when we take of his body and his blood, in fact, when you take of his body, you should be unleavened. Why should I be unleavened? Because by then you should have got all that stuff out. I'm dealing with all this stuff. We've been dealing with it for months. Anybody got a clue yet? We've been dealing with it for months. It ain't no new thing. It's just that now we're here. Because see, you got some folks that's just playing around. Playing around. They don't take this serious. And I will be his Elohim, and he shall be my son. But then he goes on to say, but all these fearful, unbelievers, I don't believe that. You're in the book. Right here. I don't believe you have to do all that. Well, it's Yah's Passover. You know, when he says it's Yah's Passover, like we read, and then Shaul in 1 Corinthians 5 says that the Mashiach Izar. So Yah's Passover is the Mashiach. Yah's Passover is the Mashiach. And you don't believe it? Okay. And they didn't do no Good Friday, Easter Sunday. That ain't nothing but the devil. Up jumped the boogeyman. That ain't nothing but the devil. And he's done a good job deceiving all these years. I ain't deceived no more. I ain't deceived no more. How you going to get 3 days out of Friday to Sunday? You can't get that. He said, they said, show us a sign, Yahusha, show us a sign. A wicked and adulterous generation seeking after a sign. I ain't giving you no sign. The only sign I'll give you is a sign of Jonah. Just like he was 3 days and 3 nights in the belly of the fish, so shall the Son of Man be 3 days and 3 nights in the heart of the earth. That's our sign. So everybody that celebrates Good Friday to Easter Sunday missed the sign. Fumble. You didn't miss the sign. Okay, back to 1 Corinthians 11 and verse 24. Because we got to finish up here. Because it's almost time. Do you know them folks was waiting? They were so tired of getting beaten up. You would think folks would be tired of getting beaten up by sin, being abused. This world don't like you. These folks don't like you. This world does not like you. And you got some folks that just love to be abused. Oh, beat me one more time. Folks is crazy. Y'all, you crazy. I'm tired of getting beat by sin. Is anybody, are you tired of the sorrow that sin brings? You see how sin can destroy people's lives? One act of sin is being still felt today. One act of sin. One act. And you got folks don't believe this book. By the disobedience of one man, death passed on all. So by the obedience of one man, he's going to give life unto those who obey him. So this do in remembrance of me. After the same manner also he took the cup when he had supped, saying, this cup is the New Testament in my blood. So the New Testament is the blood of the Messiah. The New Testament is not no new instructions. The New Testament is the blood. Because under the old economy, it was the blood of bulls and goats. Under this economy, it's the blood of the Messiah, Yahushua Mashiach, the Messiah. His blood atoned once and for all. And it's still atoning today. You know, there's life in those blood songs. There's life in them. Why is there life in them? Because you're singing about the blood. You're singing about life. There's life in them. Them blood songs will move you. No, you ain't gonna be doing no shoe and no floss on them blood songs. What else is out there? They got all them dances out there. The wash machine, the cabbage patch. You gotta work it. They got the running man. There's one out there called the running man. You ain't gonna be doing no running man when you hear them blood songs. They just kind of break you down. They make that spirit move on the end. You get to crying. Oh man, them blood songs will do it. Why? Because there's life in it. There's life in it. Ain't no life in the shoe. The floss, those are the only ones I know. They got all kinds of dances out there. My grandson be talking about, it's a shoe, it's a floss. Here, Grandpa, it's a floss. It's a floss, Grandpa. All right. Them blood songs don't make me floss. Man, I get to thinking about singing them blood songs, man. He took the cup when he had supped, saying, this cup is the New Testament in my blood. This do as oft as you drink in remembrance of me, as often as you do it. And then that's what Yahusha said. So when did they take of the cup? When did they do the Passover? They did it at the beginning of every year. The beginning of every year is when they did it. And he says, as often as you do this, you're going to show my death. You're going to remember me as often as you do it. That's why when our new year starts, it's a new year. It's a refreshing. It's a renewal. Everything starts growing. Our new year is not in the dead of winter. And our day don't start at midnight. All that Roman stuff. Folks got Roman on the mind. You can't get Jerusalem on your mind because you got Roman on your mind so much. The school of Rome brought you Good Friday and Easter Sunday. School of Rome brought you that. I don't know how folks can be so saved and can't see it. I don't know. I guess because your eyes ain't open. Just eyes ain't open. Blind. Yahusha said, if the blind lead the blind, they all going in the ditch. That when the kingdom comes and we pray, thy kingdom come, thy will be done. When his kingdom come, you got to give that up. You're going to give that up. When his kingdom come, you giving up that first day worship. He ain't going to have nobody in his kingdom keeping the first day worship. When his day is the Shabbat, and Yahuwah said it in Isaiah 58, I think it's verse 13, he said, this is my holy day. And you think you're going to keep first day worship? The devil got you tripped. You tripping. That's what they say, you tripping. For as often as ye eat this bread and drink this cup, ye do show Yahusha's death till he come. So we're getting ready to show his death. And his coming is going to be soon. His return is soon. Wherefore, now here's the part. I mean, we can follow this, but here's the part where people really trip up. Wherefore, whosoever shall eat this bread and drink this cup of Yahusha unworthily shall be guilty of the body and the blood of Yahusha. Now, who was guilty of his body and blood? Anybody know? Who was guilty? Judas. Judas Iscariot was guilty of the body and blood. And you can see that. I think it's, is it the 12th chapter or 13th chapter of Yahuchanan? Because he tells them, because they asked the question, you know, who is it? And they said, Adonai, is it I? In Yahuchanan 12, or 13, I'm sorry. Okay. Let's look at Yahuchanan 13:21. Yahuchanan 13:20. And when Yahusha had thus said, he was troubled in spirit and testified and said, verily, verily, I say unto you that one of you shall betray me. Now, one of them betrayed him that night. but there's multitudes that are betraying him now. It's not one anymore. It's multitudes that are betraying him now. Folks who used to go here are betraying him now. Listen to what he says. Then the disciples looked one on another, doubting of whom he spake. Now there was leaning on Yahushua's bosom one of his disciples whom Yahushua loved. Simon Kepher therefore beckoned to him that he should ask who it should be of whom he spake. He then lying on Yahushua's breast said unto him, Adonai, who is it? Yahushua answered, it is to whom I shall give a sup when I have dipped. And when he had dipped the sop, he gave it to Judah Iscariot, the son of Simon. And after the sop, Satan entered into him. Then said Yahushua unto him, that thou doest, do quickly. Verse 28, now no man at the table knew. I was looking for that one that says, where he says, woe unto that man. I guess it must be in one of the other Gospels. But it was Judah that betrayed him, and you have people who are betraying him now. Let's go back to 1 Corinthians 11. I think we're on verse, what was that? Verse 27. Wherefore, whosoever shall eat this bread and drink the cup of Yahushua unworthily shall be guilty of the body and blood of Yahushua. And the one that was guilty of his body and blood was Judah Iscariot. He was the one that was guilty. It's in the, I thought it was in Yahuchanan, but it might be in the other one, Mark 14 or one of the other ones, where he talks about, woe unto you that, he gives some woes to him. I can't quote it right now. So in order not to be a Judas Iscariot, but let a man examine himself, and so let him eat of that bread and drink of that cup. This is a very serious time. That's why you take some time in approaching it. That's why you got to really examine yourself. You got to really get down into the nicks and the crannies. You got pride in you, you better get it out. Because see, we think it's the big foxes, but he said, no, it's the little foxes that destroys the vine. You got folks that's got envy in them, and they don't want to address envy. Oh, that's just it's just one of those little things. He's going to look past that. But he says in James, in Jacob, he says, where there's envy and strife, there's what? Every evil work. So you start pulling the stones of envy and strife over, you're going to see every evil work, and you wonder why your life is messed up. You wonder why everything's falling apart. You wonder why your life is unrecognizable. You wonder why you ain't getting a prayer through. Because some folks are holding on to one thing. Can I get one more scripture, y'all? And we're going to come back here to 28. Hebrews 12, Brother Nathan, Hebrews 12 and verse number 1. Wherefore, seeing we also are compassed about with so great a cloud of witnesses. And you know who those witnesses were? Well, you have to read chapter 11. Because we break it up in chapters and stuff. That's not how it is on the scroll. They just, those leaves and stuff that they wrote on, he just wrote continuously. So you see what happened in chapter 11, which was of faith. He says, wherefore, seeing also we're compassed with so great a cloud of witnesses, let us lay aside every weight and the sin. Not sins, sin, which does so easily beset us. It's just one sin. I ain't got a host of things, but man, there's one thing I'm just having a hard time with. That's that one sin. You got to lay that aside. Because that one sin besets you and gets you off track. You off track, you off the rail. So how do I get back on? He that confesseth and forsaketh shall have what? Mercy. Mercy. Oh, yeah, I got envy in my heart. Oh, yeah, I got pride. He hates pride. Oh, I can't stop lying. Now, a few years ago, there was a preacher that said a lying spirit got on him. And every time he got up in the pulpit, he'd tell lies. That's the truth, y'all. That's the truth. He said a lying spirit got on me. So you got some folks can't stop lying. If you just tell the truth, it'd be simpler. You got to. Did you go to Walmart? No, I didn't go to Walmart. Well, did you go to one of those stores? Maybe I got it wrong. Did you go? No, I didn't go. And you find out later they went to Target. Well, you asked me if I went to Walmart. Well, I just couldn't name the other one. See, folks, some folks just can't tell the truth about nothing. Did you dye your hair? No, I didn't dye my hair. Some folks just can't tell the truth. It's a shame they can't tell the truth. It's a shame. Did you go out last night? No, I didn't go out last night. You know, they got, you know, they watching y'all. They watching y'all. I was at the intersection on 53rd and Marquette, and I noticed they put a little camera right up, kind of hid it. I mean, you have to actually look at the light and everything to find it. I mean, it's kind of hidden back in there. And I seen it, and it had because first the way I seen it, it had a little red dot. And I'm going, I seen that dot over there. I'm going, what is it? Oh, that's a camera on there. It took a picture of me. Or, I mean, something, because it had that little tiny red dot. And I looked at it, and it was a camera on there. They got cameras all over the city, everywhere you go. Cameras. And so they're watching you. But you know whose eyes are in every place? Beholding the evil and the good? Whose Sister Mona Kidd said, I didn't know he had x-ray vision. Because he can see in the dark. Oh, I didn't know he could see in the dark. Yeah, he can see in the dark. So he sees everything. So that's why he says, lay it aside. Lay aside that sin. Let's go back, Brother Nathan. Lay aside the sin. So I got to examine myself, because if I don't, for he that eateth and drinketh unworthily, he eateth and drinketh damnation to himself, not discerning Yahushua's body. So you got those who don't want to take it, and if you don't take it, you're cut off. And then you got those who take it unworthily, and you're damned. So if I don't take it, I'm cut off. If I don't do it right, you mean I'm damned? Yeah. Because he's getting you to the place where you better clean it up. Better clean it up. And if you can't see what's going on around the world now and know that something, I know something great's going to happen. Something's going to happen, because this world cannot go on the present course. Something's going to happen. and you want to play around, because I think we got about one more year. And I'm not a prophet. I'm not a prophet. And the only reason why I say that, because I believe the 400 years was ended in 2019. And since 2019, look at all the stuff that's been going on. And now you got a war, and they don't know this. Well, I know what they're planning on doing, but it ain't going to end up no time soon. They've got a plan. They've got a plan. How y'all like them gas prices? How y'all like inflation? They said the cost of food, everything's going up. You better start planting some of your own food because you might not find it on the shelf this summer. Might not find it on the shelf. The economy is wrecked. There's inflation. They don't know what to do. So time's winding up. Damnation to himself, not discerning Yahushua's body. For this cause many are weak, sickly among you, and many sleep. This is what we're supposed to do when we examine ourselves. For if we would judge ourselves, we should not be judged. So if I judge myself and I see that I'm struggling with something in my flesh, my judgment is I got to get rid of that. I got to overcome that. I can't continue to do that. This is a serious thing. Y'all have heard it in the past. He's an exacting Elohim. Very exacting. He says in Exodus, he says, there's no way I'm going to clear the guilty. I'm not clearing the guilty. So if I would judge myself and say, I got to put away this, I got to put away that, I'm getting rid of all this evil, all this malice, wickedness, and I judge myself because there's certain people I'm just not going to hang out with. Because I know every time I hang out with them, I get tripped up. I know they're potheads. And every time I hang out with them, I get so tempted. And next thing I know, I'm high. I don't know how I got high. I was just sitting in the room with them. I'll smoke no dope, and you can't walk straight. Eyes all red, eating everything in sight. I'll smoke no dope. So if I judge myself, hey, I can't hang around you. I'm sorry, I can't hang around you. I can't deal with that. Ain't it something? You got folks grew up in the church around saved folks, ain't never had no marijuana around them. All of a sudden, they potheads. Now, how that happen? You ain't never been around. I could see some of these kids growing up in the house and kids are growing up in the houses with these folks and all they do is smoke dope. But you ain't never done it. You ain't never been in a house like that. You ain't never been tempted like that because you've been kept from that, and all of a sudden you a pothead. How did that happen? So if I judge myself, because somebody said it's not illegal, that's man's law. You ain't going to stand before the Supreme Court in that day. You going to stand before Christ, the Messiah. That's who you're going to stand before. And you tell him they made it legal. I was reading, we're not going to go there tonight because we're running out of time, but it was dealing with uncleanness and all this stuff that's unclean. Because I was thinking of uncleanness because he gave us clean animals and unclean animals. And that is a part of uncleanness, but that's not all of it. There's more to uncleanness than your selection of your diet. So I started looking at that. Start looking at that in Leviticus and Deuteronomy. Start looking at that. Oh, this is more serious than what we thought, because he's going to judge us. You're going to be judged up against somebody who knew no sin. And he's going to judge you after he forgave you. I forgave you of that sin. And you went right back to it. Because Shaul says in Galatians chapter 2, he says, if I build again those things that I've destroyed, I make myself a transgressor. He gave you an out. You had an out. You had an out. Then you went back to it. So if I judge myself, but when we are judged, because we are going to be judged, we are chastened. If he loves you, he's going to chasten you. If he don't chasten you, I pity you. You mean you can just sin and nothing happens, sin and nothing happens, sin and nothing happens? Oh no, we're living the good life. That's because he don't love you. Because those he loves, what does he do? I'm going to make it hard for you because I want you to come out of that. I'll make it hard for you. There ain't no bed of roses. Some of us, we ain't living no bed of roses. Man, I'm trying to go through a day where my heart don't hurt. Anymore, I don't have too many days like that. To where my heart is not hurting. Not because I'm sinning, but because of just the way life is. And I see other people's lives and stuff. It bothers me. It bothers me. But I'd rather it bother me than don't feel a thing. I don't want to go through life and commit sin and everything and he don't chastise me, because that means he don't love you. Okay, I'm going to let you go. Okay, you can go. As long as you know where your final destination is. That we should not be condemned with the world. See that? He's going to condemn everybody else. So if he chastises us and we pull up out of it, then I won't be condemned with the world. Wherefore, my brethren, when you come together to eat, tarry one with another. Wait on one another. And if any man hunger, eat it at home. Eat at home. Don't come here hungry. Eat at home. That when we come together, that ye come not together unto condemnation. So we got to do it the right way. Got to do it the right. That's why we don't fast on the Pesach. Don't fast on the Pesach, and don't be glutton. I see so many church folks glutton. Y'all know that's a sin, right? All y'all church folk that go to these smorgasbords and get seconds and thirds. And I don't mean you go, there's a difference between seconds and thirds when you only put one little thing on your plate. I mean, you're really checking your diet, because they said the best way to eat is to eat one thing at a time. You don't, when you mix your food and you got meat and leaves and greens and bread and fruit and crackers and peanuts, and you're throwing all this stuff down and your body can't digest, you putting your body through the crucible. Because it's going to try to work. Then you wonder why you can't sleep. You got nightmares, and then you throw sleeping pills in there. And your whole inside's a mess. But gluttony's a sin too. So we have to make sure we eat. So Friday, which is the Pesach. This year, the Pesach falls on the 6th day. So his resurrection, then, you've got the Shabbat, you got the first day of the week, you got the third day of the week. So on this year, Passover is Friday. His resurrection would be like Monday. So you got Saturday to Monday, right? 3 days, because you would have Friday night, Saturday night, Sunday night. Then you would have Saturday day, Sunday day, Monday day. So he would get up Monday before nightfall. because that's how he did it. So this particular year, the resurrection is actually before 6 p.m. on Monday, on our calendar, would be resurrection, because she would go to the tomb Tuesday morning and he was already gone. So people who say he rose on the first day of the week is in error. He did not rise on the first day of the week. When she got to the tomb, let's look at Yahuchanan 20 and verse 1. Yahuchanan 20 and verse 1. The first of the week, which is the Shabbat, cometh Mary Magdalene early, when it was yet dark. When it was yet dark, unto the sepulchre, and seeth the stone taken away from the sepulchre. While it was yet dark, she got there. Now, a lot of people say, see, that's the first day. Look, let's go to the Greek. I know y'all ready to go. We got to go. Folks got to go to work. Folks got to go to school. Folks just got to go home. Let's look at the Greek here, 45:21. And let's pull that up right here, 45:21, where it says week. There you go. Oh! Sabbaton. The Sabbath. The Shabbat. So they called, because they would number 7 days, and 7 days would be the Shabbat. That seventh day was always the Shabbat. Sabbaton. So she was there on the first of the Sabbaton. So everybody that says he rose on the first day of the week is in error. He did not rise on the first day of the week. He was already up when Mary got there. She said, I got there right as it was still dark outside. And he was already gone. Now, next year, the Shabbat, or the Pesach, Passover, on 2023 calendar, falls midweek. And I think that's very interesting. It would fall midweek because the CHURCH still going to say Good Friday, Resurrection Sunday, but he's going to show you. I'm going to show you. Because this last year, 2023, before everything goes off the rail, he's going to show you. It was midweek. Shabbat, or Pesach was midweek. And when Mary got there, and they said it's the first Sabbath, when she got there, he was already gone. So you got Wednesday night, Thursday night, Friday night. You got Thursday, Friday, Saturday. When she got there, he was gone. Is that right? Yes. Yeah, they're anticipating the new moon is going to fall at a certain time. This year, the new moon fell on April 2nd. So April 2nd, that's the new moon where you count 14 days. 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. Right? Did I count them right? 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 5th. I thought I did that before. 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. Huh? Yeah, that's what. Right. Yeah. So anytime you see, even on the Roman Greco calendar, when you see where they set the Pesach, all you got to do is go back 14 days. Anywhere in that vicinity, you're going to have a new moon, and that's the new year. So wherever they have, Easter Sunday, go back 14 days, and right around that time, you got the new moon. The new moon might come at, different days, because that usually every month you got a full moon by the 15th day of the month. Just works that way. About the 15th day about mid-month, you got a full moon. It's just that the new moon, you might go 24, 48 hours with no moon in the sky. So you have to wait for that first light on the moon. That's the new moon. Some people celebrate the new moon every month. It's the new moon. And some people celebrate that because it does talk about the new moon. But next year, it's actually going to fall midweek, so we're going to see it in action. I just believe we're going to see it, and I think it's going to be. It's very interesting that the Pesach falls midweek next year. But we have to follow the new moon, though. It might be off a day or two, but it's going to be right around there. So this Friday we'll have foot washing first, and then we're going to have our Seder meal, and then we're going to take of the body and the cup. There'll be a couple ministers that'll be here that'll be putting that together for Friday. I pray that everybody is prepared and ready. We've got today, and you got less than 48 hours now to where you should be getting your house in order and be ready to go. I don't think there's going to be too many more that we're going to have before he returns. And he said when he ate the bread and drank the cup, he says, I'm not going to do it until I come back in my kingdom, and we're all going to do it anew. And I don't know about you, but I want to sit at his table and take the body and the blood one last time with him. Everybody's not going to have that opportunity, but I definitely want to have that opportunity where I can sit at his table and take the body and drink the cup one more time, because he says, I'm going away and I ain't going to drink the cup till I drink it anew with you when I come in the kingdom. So we're waiting for that day, and it's not going to be. I think we're getting close. I think we're getting close. Now 2023 could come. I think it will come, but doesn't mean you're going to see 2023. So it's going to come, but are you going to be there to witness it? That's the thing. And if I'm not there to witness it, as long as I go to the grave right. If I go to the grave right, then I don't have to worry about it. I'm coming back. I'll be back at that resurrection. Because when he comes back, he's bringing all those in the grave. I'm bringing them, getting them up. Everybody's not coming up out of the grave now. Everybody's not coming out of the grave. He knows those who went down in the grave that are his. He knows them. And then he's going to gather them. He's going to bring them back along with everybody that is here. He's going to gather us from the four corners, from one end of heaven to the other. So it's going to be a miraculous gathering. And so we got that coming up. We got unleavened bread on the Pesach, and then for 7 days. So everybody, some of the sisters here have recipes for unleavened bread, and we're supposed to eat unleavened bread for 7 days. And don't commit no sin. Don't commit no sin. Well, I'm going to hold it until after unleavened bread. Don't commit no sin after unleavened bread, because you're going to have to pay for that. You're going to be judged on that. You're going to be judged on that. So most of us here, we got some younger people, but most of us here, we're at that place now. There's some things I'm just not going to do. Not that I can't. There's some things I'm just not going to do. Just not going to do. But we got, because you know how we are. We getting old, and we just think about things. Sometimes our minds got to be cleaned up because I can't do it physically, but my mind sure wonders. I got to get that mind right. I got to get that mind right because he'll save the mind too. So any other questions or comments? Anybody got anything that they want to share? We fasted today. Hope everybody fasted and last week. And this is a serious time. And it's a time that we're not supposed to forget. We're supposed to remember it every year. Yes.
So when our children come, and for those who may be in the faith and may not, they will eat of the supper, but not of the bread of the body.
Yeah. The body, what he took when he said, "This is my body, which is broken for you," that represents that unleavened bread. That's not you. You have to have gotten the sin out. That's why he said, "Don't take of this bread. If you don't do it right, you're doing it unworthily." So you got that self-examine. Somebody has not gone through this process that hasn't been born again and hasn't gone through the process of self-examination shouldn't be. Well, I was going to say you shouldn't take it. You still got to take it because if you don't, you ain't got no life in you. And if you do it wrong, you're drinking it unworthily. But the Seder meal, everybody should take the Seder meal. Everybody takes the Seder meal. But then you've got the unleavened bread, which represents his body that was broken. And everything he went through, and he didn't know any sin. There was no sin in him. But he took that for us because we're the ones that was worthy of that type of beating, not him. So he had no sin in him, but he took he took the punishment as if he had sinned. And we have to consider his body was broken for us. He didn't have sin. And so that unleavened body. But then when he was up on the cross and he said, "Ali, Ali, lama sabachthani," and they said, "Well, what did he say?" And at that time, his father pulled up off of him. And it was just a man there with a human spirit. And he took on sin. All the sins that are mentioned in this book, he took them all on. And then he died. So those who are going to be doing the Shabbat in your homes, not Shabbat, I'm sorry, Pesach in your homes, because some people, who are not here locally will probably be in their homes doing it. And I hope I kind of explained it, is everybody should take of that Seder meal, which represents our Passover. It's that lamb slain from the foundation of the world. That's our Passover. But those who take the unleavened bread in the cup, then you got to be worthy to take that. You have to be worthy for that. All right? So with that, I'm going to say shalom to all those who joined us, all the kings and queens, the Hebrews, Shebrews, say shalom to all of you, the bros, the brus, the brews, Zakines and occults and occultees, all of our sojourners, everybody that's in Yasharal, we say shalom to all of you and looking forward to the Pesach and taking of the Seder meal and then the body and the blood of our Messiah, Yahushua Mashiach, who the world knows as Jesus Christ. Some people call him Jesus Christ, as long as you know who he is. As long as you know who he is. And the most important thing is you got to believe. So he knows your heart, whether you believe him or not. But I just know him as Yahushua Mashiach because he was Yahushua before he was Jesus. But some people still use Jesus. I'm not offended if you use Jesus. Just don't be offended if I say Yahushua. As long as we're talking about the same person. Some people don't like Jesus. Some people don't like Yahushua. But I mean, when he comes, everybody's going to say his name. Everybody's going to say his name. And then he has a name that nobody knows. And you know what? He's going to give us a name. He's going to give us a name. You know, it says that in Revelation, the 2nd chapter. He's going to give us a name. So our names are going to be changed. You won't be known as Leroy. You're going to have another name. I know what they named you, but that ain't your name. I'm going to give you another name. All right. Brother Nathan, how am I doing? Are we done?